Good afternoon everyone. I am Professor Sukruti Joshi from Department of Applied Science Chemistry. We are going to learn today empirical formula and molecular formula. Before that, one short topic will be there which covers qualitative analysis of organic compounds. In that, as we know that if we are given one organic compound, we have certain rules and regulations that we have to follow. Certain tests are there which need to done before that. So here just the outline will be given to you that which type of test can be possible when you are given one organic compound. So here firstly, the analysis and identification of unknown organic compounds constitutes a very important aspect of experimental organic chemistry. Now, in order to deduce the identity of your unknowns, combine one quantitative test. As we know that there are basically three types of tests are there: preliminary examination, then confirmatory examination, and in between them a group test will be there, with which you can identify that in which group does your organic compound belong. So here I have given you general scheme of analysis. Now as we know that if you are given one unknown compound about which you don't know what is the group, in which group does it exist, which are the elements which can be present in that, so if that thing will be given to you, then what happens? So here it is just written that which scheme you have to follow or which plan you have to follow when you are given one unknown compound. So firstly it is preliminary test, then physical constants, then solubility test. So here first is your preliminary test. Physical characteristics you have to measure in this. Like as we know that in preliminary examination we are measuring out the physical characteristics, or you can say your physical properties. What are the basic physical properties with which you can distinguish out which type of compound contains which type of compound, this compound contains which type of elements. So here solid, whether we have to check out the phase, either it is in solid phase, either it is in liquid phase, or either it is in gaseous form. Whatever it is, then next, in which color does it exist and what is the order which will be present in your compound. Now here as we know that certain compounds has their own phases, like some compounds are present in solid form, some compounds are present in liquid form, and some compounds are present in gaseous form. So we have to know that which type of compound here present. So from the phase we can identify that which compound is present here. Now from color also, like certain compounds has white color or they are colorless in nature. Now from that, like CuSO4 for an example, copper sulfate, what does the copper sulfate has in color? Like as we know that copper sulfate has bluish green color, so it indicates that if you are getting a compound with bluish green color, then it indicates that your compound may be copper sulfate. Likewise, you can identify or you can generalize various compounds depending upon their colors here. Order, like as we know that some group basically exists with some order, like amines, they exist with fishy order. As we know that H2S exists with egg order, a burned egg or something like that order, and some compounds have specific order, as we know that. So from here also we can identify that this compound may be present. So this preliminary examination helps us to identify or to generalize which type of compound may be present in your exam. Like amines often have a fish-like odor, as we know that, while esters usually have a pleasant, fruity and a floral smell. As we all know that esters or alcohols, you can see that they have sweet odor, sweet smell, or they have pleasant, fruity or floral smell. Now second one which come is physical constants that determine the boiling point or melting point of your compound. They are also basically an identification parameters. From this also you can identify that which type of compound or which type of substance is present in your example. So here distillation is used for liquids, as we know that we are taking out the boiling point of liquids, while melting point of the solids, as we know that right here. So here distillation is used for liquids. It serves as the dual purpose of determining the boiling point, as well as you can use it for separating out the liquids for subsequent taste. As we know that if we give a mixture of liquids here, we can separate it out with the use of your distillation. So here we are using that, and as we know that melting point can be found by capillary method. From that you can identify that which type of solid may be present. Next is solubility test. In this also, as we know that some compounds are soluble in water, some compounds are soluble in dilute HCl, some compounds are dilute in concentrated HCl, some compounds are dissolved in dilute HNO3, some compounds are dissolved in concentrated HNO3, as well as this differentiate the whole substances. If you are given mixture of compounds, then from that also you can identify with the use of your solubility test that this compound may be soluble in your water, may not be soluble in the water. So from that also you can identify that which type of compound is present. So it is just written that the solubility tests of the unknown in the following reagents provides very useful information. In general, about 1 ml of the solvent is used with approximately 0.1 gram of or 0.2 ml when you are taking the solid compound. At that time you are taking it in grams, while when you are taking it in the liquids, at that time you are using ml. Now 2 to 3 drops of the unknown compound. Here the solubility table will be given to you that which type of compound can be soluble in which type of solvents. So from that also you can identify that the nature of the compound is like what, whether it is an acid, whether it is a base, which type of group does it contain. So from that you can identify all these things. First, soluble in cold or hot water. As you know that this first parameter will be applicable to most of the compounds, as most of the compounds can be dissolved in water. Now which type of class it can exist. So here it may be from neutral class, acidic or basic. So your compound may have acidic nature, may have basic nature, or may have neutral nature. You have to taste it with your litmus paper, as we know that, or universal indicator paper, a pH paper, with which you can know that whether your compound is acidic or whether your compound is a basic one. Now which group of compound does it present? So it is neutral. For example, if your compound is neutral, then alcohol may be present. If your compound is acidic in nature, then your acids and phenols may be present, and if your compound is basic in nature, then amines will be present. Now the second criteria is if your compound is dissolved in dilute HCl, then what may be there. So here your class is basic, your compound will be basic in nature, and most amines can be present here. Next, if your compound is soluble in dilute NaOH, then what happened? Your compound may be from the acidic class. It means that your compound has acidic nature. And which type of compounds may be present? They are most acids, most phenols are present there. If your compound, next criteria is if your compound is soluble in NaHCO3, then what happened? It is strongly acidic in nature. Most carboxylic acids will be there, as we know that COOH will be dissolved in NaHCO3. So here it is given insoluble. If your compound is insoluble either in water, acid and alkali, then what may be present? So here your class will be neutral. Which type of your compound has neutrality, and which type of compounds can be present, like your hydrocarbons may be present, alkyls or aryl halides may be present, esters and ethers can be present. Higher molecular weight alcohols and aldehydes and ketones are also may be present, as they all have the neutral nature. So you can identify this whole class when your compound is insoluble in each and everything, rather in water, either in your acid, or either in your base or alkali. So first, after you are completing with your preliminary examination, which comes next is group test. What we are including here, I am just giving you one example. The whole criteria will be there, but we are taking here an example of OH group. So here test for OH group is given. Mostly your compound is soluble in NaOH. They will conformed with the FeCl3 test, your ferric chloride test. Here, how can you perform your test will be written here. You have to take your alcoholic solution of the sample plus 2 to 3 drops of neutral FeCl3. Now here, which type of compound can be present? It can be seen by here. Violet. If you are getting a violet color, then it means your para-nitrophenol will be there. If you are getting pink color, then it means you are getting your alpha-naphthol. The second confirmatory test, or you can say group test for your OH group, is your Rimmer-Timman test. Here you have to take compound plus 2 ml CHCl3, your chloroform, plus 3 ml NaOH, and you have to heat that whole thing. Your CHCl3 layer, that means your chloroform layer, turns blue to green. It indicates presence of OH group, your phenol group. Now your phenols are in general conditions pink in color. They are soluble in NaOH, as we know that acidic compounds will be dissolved or are soluble in NaOH. Therefore you can see here that they are mostly soluble in NaOH. Now the test which is used to identify this is you have to take your compound plus Br2 water, bromine water. It gives you white PPTs of tribromophenol. It indicates presence of phenol group. Second test is you have to take your compound plus NaNO2, sodium nitroxide, then concentrated H2SO4. It gives dark blue color appears. Here you are confirming that your phenol group is present. Next is you have to take your compound plus neutral FeCl3. You have to prepare your neutral FeCl3 fresh, otherwise your test will be deferred. If it gives you violet color, then it means that OH group or phenolic group must be present. Now after we are doing some of the qualitative analysis of your organic compound, we are taking about the quantitative analysis. So here we are using instrumental analysis, as we know that this is the modern technology and modern instrumentation. So we are using here that only. In this pyramid, you have seen that from the preliminary instruments to the final or to the hyphenated techniques are given here. In the first place, it is chromatography. Second, UV, IR, AS, AES, ICP AES, then GC, HPLC, and lastly GCMS, HPLC, MS. Here, as we know that chromatography is a very basic technique that is used after your preliminary test. So we are using here chromatography, then UV, IR, AS, AES, GC, HPLC, and lastly the mostly used to identify any of the substances in the world, there are hyphenated techniques, that is gas chromatography, mass spectrometry, and HPLC-MS, or you can say LC-MS, your liquid chromatography, mass spectrometry. Now there are basically two parts. First is your atomic spectroscopy, or you can say spectroscopy, and second is your chromatography. So first is spectroscopy, techniques for determining the elemental compositions of an analyte by its electromagnetic or mass spectrum. Here basically the name given for spectroscopy. Why? Because we are using here light in the spectrum. So here we are given the name like spectroscopy. This technique uses light, therefore it is known as spectroscopy. Now it can be divided into two parts, optical spectroscopies and mass spectrometries. Now this will use totally light, while this is used the ionization techniques. Now firstly, what are optical spectroscopies? So your AES, UV, IR, fluorescence spectroscopy, AS will be included in all these things. As we know that AES is your atomic emission spectroscopy, UV ultraviolet spectroscopy, IR infrared spectroscopy, fluorescence spectroscopy, and AS, that is your atomic absorption spectroscopy. AES, when we are using inductively coupled plasma as of the source for AES, at that time the whole technique will be known as ICP AES, or you can say ICP OES, because we are using atomic emission spectroscopy, or you can say optical emission spectroscopy. Therefore it is written like that, whether you can use ICP AES or whether you can use ICP OES. Next is AAS. Here, as we are using different type of sources, source of lights or source of ionization for your compound, as we know that flame AS and GFAS. Depending upon that, it can be classified into two types. AS can be classified into majorly two types, that is your flame AS and GFAS. Next is mass spectrometries. Now here it includes, from this technique you can find out the molecular weight of any of the compound. So here ICP-MS and SI-MS, two techniques are majorly used to identify the molecular weight of any of the compounds in the world, and they are recently known as the modern technologies or modern instrumentations in the analytical chemistry field. Now the second part is chromatography. Now as we all know that the principle of chromatography is based on the separation basically. So you can say also that chromatography is a technique based on the principle of separation of components. Now basically 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 parts, or you can say 5 types of chromatographies are there. First is paper chromatography, second is thin layer chromatography, or you can say TLC. Next is gas chromatography, or GC. Rather than that, liquid chromatography and GCMS. This includes your hyphenated techniques. You can use also GCMS and LCMS here also. So this is the very basic technique which is used to just only colorize any of the substance. Then comes is TLC. Nowadays another technique which comes into existence is your HPTLC, that is your high performance thin layer chromatography. Next is gas chromatography, which also includes your GLC and GSC, gas solid chromatography and gas liquid chromatography. Depending upon that, liquid chromatography is being modernized to HPLC, high performance liquid chromatography, or high pressure liquid chromatography. And lastly GCMS, or you can say also LCMS, gas chromatography mass spectrometry, and LCMS is your liquid chromatography mass spectrometry. Now from the spectroscopic part, here we are taking a brief introduction about what is UV and IR. So here UV and IR both are the basic techniques. They based on the principle of absorption of light, as we know that. UV, the full form of UV is ultraviolet spectroscopy. The range of UV comes from 200 nanometers to 800 nanometers. From 200 nanometers to 400 nanometers it is UV, that means your ultraviolet, and from 400 to 800 it is your visible range. So the whole range is known as UV vis, your UV visible range. Next is infrared spectroscopy. The full form of IR spectroscopy is your infrared spectroscopy. The range is from 10 centimeter inverse to 14,000 centimeter inverse. Here one region is there which is known as fingerprint region, in which you can identify your substance, or you can say that it gives you a perfect frequency of any of the compound. From that you can find out which type of compound is present here. Next techniques that come is AAS and AES. As we know that the full form of AES is atomic absorption spectroscopy. Now what is the principle of this? That this technique is based on the principle of absorption of light, mostly elemental analyzed. Mostly elements are analyzed here. You can find out any of the heavy metals or any of the metals using this technique. Next is your AES. The full form of AES is atomic emission spectroscopy. It is based on the principle of emission of light. Minute elements can be analyzed. This is a very modernized technique named as ICP-AES. You can identify nanograms of compounds using this technique, ICP-AES. Next comes is mass spectrometry. Now this technique is basically used to determine molecular weight of any of the compounds, the highest tool to identify and quantify a substance. As we know that it is hyphenated with GCMS also, with GC also, and with LC also, or you can say that you can use it with your HPLC also. It measures molecular weight of a molecule. Basically two hyphenated techniques that are very popular in analytical field is GCMS and HPLCMS. HPLCMS is used for biological molecules and GCMS is used for chemical compounds. Now comes to the next point, which is empirical formula. So what is an empirical formula? A chemical formula in which the ratio of the elements are in the lowest terms is called as an empirical formula. As we know that some of the compounds has larger molecular formulas, then what happened? It is very longer and it is very larger, so we have to short them, right? So therefore empirical formula comes into existence. Like for an example, we are taking one example. The empirical formula for a glucose molecule is CH2O. As we know that the molecular formula of glucose is C6H12O6, but the empirical formula, the shortest formula which is written here is CH2O, a very short one. All the subscripts are divisible by 6. How can we do that? Let's see here. C6H12 and O6. As we know that this is the molecular formula, we have to divide by the minimum number, that is your 6. So 6 is divided by 6, 12 is divided by 6, 6 is divided by 6 again. So here we are getting CH2 and O1. So your empirical formula will be made and known as CH2O. Now some of the exemptions are there. Some formulas such as the one for carbon dioxide CO2 are already empirical formulas without being reduced, as we know that some of the formulas are very short, some of the molecular formulas are already very short, so we don't need it to make any other shorter. Therefore they have their own exist empirical formulas. Now how can we find empirical formula using molecular mass? If you are given molecular mass, then how can you find that which is the empirical formula of your compound? So here some of the steps are given, like find mass. First of all you have to find mass or percentage of each element, then find moles of each and every element, then divide moles by the smallest number to find subscripts, then when necessary multiply subscripts by 2, 3 or 4 to get whole numbers. Now some of the example is given here. If you are given 100 grams of CH4, in that you are having 74.9 grams of carbon and 24.9 grams of hydrogen. Now dividing each quantity by the proper atomic weight gives the number of moles of each element. As you know that carbon is in the form of 74.9, it is divided by 12.01, its own molecular mass. It gives us 6.24 moles. Hydrogen same way, 24.9 divided by 1.008. We are taking here 24.7 moles. Now since a mole of one element contains the same number of atoms as a mole of any other element, so here we are dividing it with the minimum number 6.24 and you are getting C1 and carbon 4. So the whole empirical formula of your methane is CH4. Another example is find the empirical formula for a sample which contains 25.9 grams of nitrogen and 74.1 gram percentage of oxygen. So it is just only like that, 25.9 divided by 14, it gives us 1.85 moles. Then next one nitrogen into 2, here you have to multiply with 2, so it gives you N2 and here you are getting O5. Same way, so the whole empirical formula that comes is N2O5. The next point is molecular formula. So what is the molecular formula? A molecular formula is the true formula of a compound. As we know that it shows us that which type of atoms are there, how many atoms are there, and how can they be bonded with each other in your molecular formula. So here the chemical formula for a molecular compound shows the actual number of atoms present in your molecules. Now to find out the molecular formula from the empirical formula, if you are given an empirical formula, how can you find out the molecular formula from that? So some of the steps are given here. Find the empirical formula, then determine the empirical formula mass from that, then divide the molecular mass by the empirical formula to determine the multiple, then multiply the empirical formula by the multiple to find the molecular formula. Here you can see that molecular formula mass is divided by empirical formula mass, it gives you number of N. You have to multiply it with your empirical formula EF and you are getting your molecular formula from that. Now here the example is given to you that you are given one empirical formula for your ethylene CH2. You have to find out molecular formula from this. So what you have to do is the molecular mass, as we know that 28.1 grams per mole. So carbon CH2, carbon is multiplied by its atomic weight 12, you are getting 12. H, which are in the number of 2, they are multiplied with their atomic weight, that is 1, is equal to 2. So you are totally getting 14 grams per mole, that is your empirical formula mass, right? So here as you have your molecular mass and empirical formula mass, so you have to divide your molecular mass with the empirical formula mass and you are getting your N, which is 2. Now you have to multiply your empirical formula with this 2. CH2 is multiplied with 2, that gives you C2H4. So this way, this shows you the molecular formula of your ethylene. What is the you are giving your empirical formula, that is CH2, and molecular formula is C2H4. Thank you.